Hey everyone, this is Jack from the Cardboard Herald, and it is 2021. And I've thought a lot about the last year and this new year and kind of hopes for things that are going to happen. And it occurred to me that that can kind of roll beyond just like goals for personal life and human civilization in general. And we could apply that to board games because there's a lot to be optimistic about this year. So I thought I would do a quick list of the 10 board games that I'm most excited and planning on making a point of getting to the table in 2021. Now, this can be because they're just games that I've wanted to play forever and haven't had a chance. This can be new games that are coming out on the horizon or have just come out and I haven't really been able to get some focus on them yet. So this is just kind of the general what I am hoping to get out of this year in gaming. And then we can always reflect on it at the end of the year and see how it turned out. So number 10 is Pandemic Legacy Season 0. Now this came out recently. This is a really exciting release and I have it on my shelf right there. I really want to play it, but my Pandemic Legacy crew has been a dedicated group that we played through Legacy Season 1 twice and Legacy Season 2, and because of the pandemic, logistics of getting us all together to play have been difficult. We've thought about, like, could we have two parallel games running in which we mark up everything identically? We've kind of planned, do we want to do this after things are a little bit more hunky-dory to spend some time together? This is one of those ones where we just haven't been able to make it work. But if you know me, you know that I absolutely adore Pandemic Legacy Season 1, and I thought Season 2 was really innovative, maybe not quite as impactful as the first, but through early reviews of Season 0, as well as kind of my preemptive love for the Legacy series, I can't wait to see what the conclusion has in store for us. Number 9, we're talking about Cash and Guns, or really any party game. This is the slot that I'm reserving for those game nights where we would just have a bajillion people over and play a bunch of games. And again, because of the pandemic, not Pandemic Legacy, but the actual pandemic, we haven't been able to do that. And I am just really excited about the possibility of having large groups get together, playing a huge amount of games in separate groups and big groups together, and just having that roarous laughter. And nothing quite does that for me at a high player count like Cash and Guns. Also, it's not as good at playing that on Zoom. You gotta have the physicality, you know? Number 8, well, guys, I gotta tell you, I am a huge nerd. And 2020 was supposed to be the year of Dune, but 2021 is now the year of Dune because everything was delayed, except for Dune Imperium, which came out at the very end of 2020, and then also the Dune board game, the remake of the original Avalon Hill game, is out by Gale Force 9, and this is a monumental, impactful series on my core development. Like, Dune made such an impact on me. It's right up there with Tolkien as far as a property that I absolutely adore. And though I've played these two games with the hype of Dune, the movie, the motion picture, part 1, coming around the corner at the end of this year, I really want to immerse myself in Dune and Dune Imperium. I played Dune Imperium once. It was my friend's copy, and it was way cool. So I can't wait to see more of these. Number 7, did I mention Tolkien? Well, good, because War of the Ring is my number 7 game. This is more of like a personal goal more than anything. It's not that it's been too difficult to get a single other player to play board games with me. It's that War of the Ring is one of those games that I hold on my shelf out of sentimentality. I mean, it's so immersive and expansive and represents so much about board gaming as a hobby and a culture, and this joint between this legacy of war games along with this immersive Tolkien property and having this American meets Euro philosophy. There's so much I love about it, but it's really hard to get to the table unless you have someone who is as passionate about it as you are. And that's a big commitment. It's a big game to learn, it's a big game to teach, and it's a big game to play. And I'm making sure that in 2021 that someone here in Juneau, Alaska is going to sit down and play through that game at least once, if not more, with me. Because even before the pandemic, this one had been collecting dust, but I've held on to it because of sentimentality. So let's see if we can get this together. Number 6 may not be too much of a surprise for you. It is Root. Now, I played lots of Root in 2020. I played lots of Root in 2019. This is one of my all-time favorite games. But unlike games like, say, Spirit Island and Terraforming Mars, both some of my favorites, those are really good at pretty much any player count. And Root, thankfully, because of the Better Bot project, is now playable at solo. It kind of stabilizes the 2-player game, so my wife and I play it, but nothing quite matches the experience of playing at a full player count with everyone around the table. And I have been able to do that at least once in 2020, but I want to do it more because this game is one of those games that just rewards multiple plays. It's a game that just keeps on giving. It's deep, it's immersive, it's thematic, it's beautiful. It's just the best, and I want to dive in even more this year. Coming in at number 5, we are getting to an anticipated game, and that is Winter Kingdom. Now, Kingdom Builder is one of my all-time favorites, and I played Winter Kingdom once on Tabletop Simulator. I thought it was pretty good, but there was something missing in translation. It wasn't the prettiest board to have on the digital table, you know what I mean? But I really have a lot of faith in the designer's work. I mean, come on, this is the dude who brought you Kingdom Builder and Dominion along with other titles. And I want to see how these ideas and concepts evolve more than just the singular play that I did. I don't have a copy yet, but this is one of those games that I'm like, dude, I gotta get a copy of Winter Kingdom and get it to the table. I have no doubt that if nothing else, it'll be a fascinating game to play, to kind of flip this familiar formula that I love out of Kingdom Builder and kind of expand it into this gigantic hexagonal form. Number 4 kind of goes along the lines of some of the earlier games, and that is Eclipse Second Dawn. Now, this is one of my all-time favorite games. It's one of those games that I play with buddies in a specific group. Well, Eclipse itself. And I have played Eclipse Second Dawn, but again, logistically, it's been really challenging to make that a safe environment to play, make sure that it gets to the table. We were able to do that for review purposes, but I had to move on. Now, in 2021, with the availability of vaccines, hopefully more ease of access to play as we go on later on in the year, I'm really excited to get Eclipse Second Dawn to the table for 2-player games, 3-player games, 4-player games, whatever. Well, maybe not 5 or 6. I was never really an Eclipse 5 or 6 player fan, but to have that immersive, gigantic sci-fi experience, I can't think of many more games that I'm so excited to play. But I guess that's what this list is, so we'll move on to the ones that I am more excited to play. Number 3 is kind of a cheater listing. I mean, it's not a specific game. It's historical games. I have been so jazzed about historical games, especially towards the end of 2020. Now, 2020, because of quarantine, was a year in which I played a ton of solo games, but I was also exposed to more multiplayer sorts of historical games, and it happens to be that a lot of historical games have fantastic solo modes. I got to play my first coin game in 2020. I really immersed myself in PAX Pamir 2nd Edition solo. I loved games like Shores of Tripoli, and there's a lot of cool games on the horizon coming out. From the makers of Shores of Tripoli, you have Votes for Women. That's a game that I'm highly anticipating, not only because of the subject matter, but because of the pedigree of designer and publisher that I want to see what they bring to the table. So in general, I've just had my eyes open to this wonderful world of historical games, and I can't wait to see what I've been missing this entire time. Big games, small games, solo, multiplayer, whatever. If you have your own recommendations, and this is where I could use some help, give me like your top 3 that you think that I should definitely check out in the comments, so that way I can do it and maybe do some coverage or just enjoy those games for myself. Now with number 2, we are starting to get into like the highest anticipated games that are yet to be released. And the first of those, but at listing number 2, is Frosthaven. Yeah, it seems to be a little bit delayed from the initial projections, and maybe now that Isaac is developing everything into the sort of playbook format, which was oh so popular with Jaws of the Lion, it's going to be delayed a little bit more as I'm recording this. The most recent substantial update was kind of like, yeah, this is taking longer than anticipated, but boy am I anticipating this game. I'm a big fan of Gloomhaven. Jaws of the Lion was a fantastic addition to this series, and I think combining some of the thought process behind Jaws of the Lion and injecting that into Gloomhaven from that large of a scope is going to be one of the most incredible gaming experiences that I could possibly have. So yeah, Frosthaven, for playing solo, for playing multiplayer, to have that really substantial campaign game that goes on, so I can get back into my in Gloomhaven solo play series. Man, I'm just over the moon about what this game could be. Sometimes when I do these casual Friday things, I turn to Twitter and see what you guys have as far as your thoughts on some of the topics that I'm talking about. So let's take a look at what you had to say. Rick Lorenzen says, I really want to play my favorite Red Raven games. Hardly played any last year. Islebound or Empires of the Void 2 for a 4X-ish feel. Also need to get Underwater Cities again. I've had exactly 1.3 plays. I know how that goes. Whether you're learning a game or you just don't have time, whatever it is, sometimes you gotta scrap a game once you're partway through. So I'd really love to kind of dive in more to what that 0.3 was for Rick. Now coming all the way from Finland, Dinah Said So has reckless sloths for bringing a smile to my face and providing us with a print and play in the middle of the pandemic. My kid had so much fun looking, playing, and talking about that game. I ordered a copy of the game and looking forward to it. Print and plays are amazing, and man, having access to a diversity of games on the cheap in the way that print and plays give to us has been a godsend during the pandemic. Now, T. Kyrez of Haba has to say, I'm really stoked to play Tycho this year. We remember liking it, but it's been years since we played it, and I want to experience why I liked it again. Also, The Colonists, all 4 eras. I want to do that a few times this year. Plumpy Thimble, one of my favorite content creators on the interwebs, says, Barca, it's my favorite abstract game. It looks too much like chess, and in the failed Kickstarter version is ugly, but it's such a simple to teach game that makes you feel like you're instantly in a battle of wits. I really want a publisher to get the rights to it and do it right. We could do a whole list on games that could use new versions, new publishers, new homes. That would be, actually, I gotta take some notes and actually start doing that. Tim has Trajan. I've never played this Steffenfeld classic, but I'm dying to try it. And then we have some nominations for a little game called Oath. Cheshire Cat says, Oath. I haven't been giddy for a game this much in forever. And then Kyle Frost, I'm going cheat and do a top 3. Oath for super interesting world building on a meta level, Rallyman Dirt, and Wanderhome. And then we have 3 to 4 games, definitely seconding Oath. The mechanics seem really unique and exciting. Also putting a shameless plug in for our own game Monstrosity, the card game. You know what? Check it out. Might as well do a shameless plug because, hey, I do shameless plugs for my own stuff all the time. And that brings us to number 1. With so many votes for Oath there, I had to highlight them to be part of the hype echo chamber for Oath myself, because the number 1 anticipated game for me for 2021, and has been for quite a long time, since the end of 2019, where I first got to see it at PAX Unplugged. I can't believe it's been that long. Oath has been the most anticipated game on the horizon, just in general for me. I have a lot of trust in Cole Worley as a designer. I think Leader Games is putting out some of the freshest designs that are happening in this industry as a whole. I think the artwork by Kyle Farron is outstanding, and I think that whole team has really contributed to make something that just sounds buck wild, fascinating and really fun to play. From the rules evolution that they've detailed throughout the entire history of the game, to the fact that the game influences subsequent games without being a true campaign, it just sounds like something that is so original, so fresh, and so beautiful. Like I was saying earlier, with Root being a game that rewards frequent play, I'm really hoping that Oath is going to be the game that just makes it so that you are eager to see the next game over and over and over again. And that is our list. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any of your own most anticipated to hit the table games in 2021. Whether they're old games, new games, whatever, I want to hear about it. So I'll leave it there. Thanks again. I've been Jack for the Cardboard Herald.